excerpt, Science Won't Resolve Debates About Trans Athletes, written by Bradley Anwell. He argues that there are essentially two disagreements. The scientific research argues that there are important biological differences for a person who has grown up with exposure to testosterone and has the XY chromosome genetic that was a part of their original biological makeup, being male at birth. The social argument will never be a great satisfactory answer based on science due to it being purely based on personal views. And will ask the question, is it reasonable to assume that an intersex or trans female athlete would have competitive advantage after puberty? When males go through puberty, there are many more advantages to their development, translating to disadvantages like strength, size, and speed.
Scientific research shows that, on average, males and females have differences in physical abilities like strength, speed, and endurance. These differences are mostly due to body size, muscle mass, and hormones like testosterone. With scientific research, it also has been proven that even with medical intervention, the DNA genetic makeup of chromosomes cannot be altered due to women having the XX chromosome and men having the XY, providing the difference in physical performance. For transgender athletes, hormone treatments can reduce some advantages, but some effects like puberty, like bone size and lung capacity, may stay.
How can we ensure that policies around gender in sports respect both competitive integrity and individual rights? First, we can use scientific and performance-based criteria. This means relying on measurable factors like hormone levels, muscle mass, or strength benchmarks to determine eligibility, supported by ongoing research on how hormone therapy or transition affects athletic performance. Second, we must consider that every athlete deserves recognition of their gender identity under anti-discrimination laws, but policies also need to protect fairness in competition. The goal is inclusion without compromising integrity. Third, strong implementation and monitoring are essential. Rules should be reviewed regularly to ensure fairness, and adjustments should be made. True progress requires open dialogue, continuous research, and flexible policies to maintain fairness in sports while showing respect for every athlete's identity.
Sports today are working to be fair for everyone, no matter their gender. Title IX opens doors for women to play and get the credit they deserve, but debates over transgender athletes have made things more complicated. Leagues are trying to balance fairness and inclusion, and while a process has been made, there is still a long way to go.
Testosterone suppression can have several effects on athletic performance. It reduces muscle mass, strength, and hemoglobin levels, which can lead to decreases in endurance and overall power. These changes help narrow the physiological gap between transgender and cisgender women, making competition fairer in many sports. However, research shows that while testosterone suppression does lower some performance advantages, certain differences may still remain, particularly in sports that rely heavily on strength and power.
Testosterone supplementation often increases muscle mass, strength, and hemoglobin levels, helping to reduce the disadvantage transgender men may face when competing against cisgender men. This makes competition more comparable in terms of power and endurance. However, it's important to remember that there's a lot of differences between individuals. The effects can depend on factors like the athlete's age, how long they've been undergoing therapy, their genetics, and even their training history.
In conclusion, the debate over whether non-biological women should be allowed to compete in women's sports is complex and deeply rooted in the question of fairness, inclusion, and science. Supporters of inclusion argue that transgender women should have equal rights and opportunities to participate, emphasizing human rights, diversity, and the importance of respecting gender identity, where opponents focus on concerns of competitive balance, biological differences, and maintaining the fairness and equality of the sport. Both perspectives seek to protect athletes. As research continues, organizations redefine policies to find a balance of inclusion while maintaining the point that fairness doesn't mean equal.